Hi, everyone. So excited for this. Oh my gosh, hi. I love it, Allison. So I'm Stuart Brazel. I am a TV host, journalist, producer, content creator, and it's so fun to see some people in real life that I've only known on Instagram. So this is why events like this are amazing. So this panel is going to be fantastic. This is Dr. Z, and we're going to talk about how to listen to your kids, not talk to your kids, listen to your kids, and there's a difference. So Dr. Z, tell us a little bit about what you do and what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, it's a new concept, right?
Yes.
It's a very new concept. My name is Dr. Zabina Bhasin. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I'm going to put it out there. I'm not practicing anymore, and I appreciate all of you asking me. But I do have multiple psychologists and psychiatrists in my friends who will take patients. But the work I do is I worked in healthcare for 22 years, and I had two children under 2, and I took a break. And I launched a company known as In Kidz, which is called Inclusive Kids. And it was really more for the reason that my daughter was 4 years old, and she came home and said, "Why do people keep asking me where I'm from?" And I'm like, "Say that one more time to me." And she was 4 years old, and I was blown away. So my specialty when I practiced was bullying and trauma. And it took me to a place where I was like, this should not be happening. This is 40 years ago of my life. Like, this should not be happening. And I realized that it wasn't really their fault or the school's fault or anyone else's fault. It was more of the fact that we need to teach and learn about other communities. So I launched In Kidz, created a multicultural line of toys, and also a mesh line of toys, which is mental, emotional, social health. Through that process, which was launched in 2020,
A pandemic business. Go, Dr. Z.
Didn't know there was a pandemic coming, just so you know. I launched March 22. I was like, wow, that was... we recognized the fact that there was more than just me building toys. And I was guided to talk about the work that I did in practice and outside. And then I started speaking at schools. I am now one of 2 women of color on the toy board, which is very, very big.
Okay, that sounds very
so
cool
I sit
and
next
exclusive.
to Mattel CEO and Disney CEO, and then there's me and Dee Dee.
Barbie, watch out.
Yeah. The other part was there were a lot of media folks asking, we need to talk about why our kids today are going through all these worries. Why are they going through all these traumas? Why are they going through all these bullying? What is the problem? Is it social media? Is it us as parents? So I said, I can talk to the kids. Let's talk to the kids. And that's what I started doing. I am not a parenting expert. I really want to make that an emphasis. I am not a parenting coach. I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist, and I'm a child expert. I work with kids between 3 to 17 years old. And the reason for that is I was trained in the emotional, psychological, physical ways how children's needs are. Then through that, I create resources that are meaningful for any adult or anybody guiding the next generation to utilize based on what the needs are of that child. That's the work I do.
And it's so important because, I just had my 3rd baby, and I have 3 boys, 5 and under, and my 5 and 3-year-old are wildly different. And what works with one does not work with the other. There's not like a blanket way to talk to them.
No.
It's really interesting. So let's get into it. Share with us the core principles behind the Listen to Kids initiative, and why is it crucial for anyone guiding the youth? We have such a responsibility.
So these are 2 very individual questions. So let's talk about the core principles of Listen to Kids. Here's the scenario. We are kids or children or youth for 17 years. We are adults with the new age range probably for 99, but till 99 now, because there's people are living longer. So when we talk to individuals as adults, you and I have a conversation, our expectation is you should listen to me, I should listen to you, and then we communicate with one another. Well, why is that not for kids? I'm sorry, I'm 6 years old and I have something to say. And if you don't listen to me, how will you know what my needs are? We do this in marriage. We do this with teachers and parents. We do this with bosses. We do this with our groups in schools. We do this within our work groups. We're constantly telling everyone, we use talking sticks at business meetings. Why are we not listening to those kids? Because if a kid is not listened to as they develop, then what happens is they stop talking. They stop telling you. Then the fear becomes, well, how do I tell my kids? There's social media. We're going to a sleepover. This is what you can recognize. Well, you didn't hear me before. How do I know I can trust you? Mom and dad, coach, teacher, mentor. In schools today, teachers will not have repercussions for children being bullied. Do you guys all know why? Because schools don't want to suspend kids or expel them due to financial reasons. So students, as early as first grade, will not go to their teachers to complain. So starting in their education system, they're told, we're not listening to you.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because I was doom scrolling as we do late at night, mamas. I'm sure that's when we're all on the social medias. And there was a video of a girl being bullied in a Southern California school and really physically attacked. And the responses from all the parents were, nobody's going to do anything about it. The school doesn't care. And it's so on target about what you're talking about that parents feel like their kids are being hurt and no one cares at all.
Right. And it's not just bullying. We're talking about athletics. So I work with athletics a lot. I work with a lot of the major leagues teams as well on, youth development and, how do we talk to the kids and how do we listen to the kids that are going through different things? One of the things I talk about is failure, right? I played basketball my whole life. I mean, my parents were like, you're 5'11", go play basketball. I need you to do something.
Go make some money.
Yeah, that was a whole nother conversation. And what happened is that the most communication children and youth hear in athletics is, how do we play the game and how do you win the game? We do not talk to the youth in the emotional state of, I missed that shot. I didn't make the hole in the golf game. Or I didn't make the meet this time. So now they have a fear of failure, but they don't want to talk to anyone about it because there's repercussions. Grades, athletics, friendships. If we don't listen to our kids, we're not going to then guide them as they grow up to be the next generation of adults, how to listen to other people. Then we have more kids constantly interrupting one another. They don't have a view of that until they know about it. And it doesn't only start at home. This starts within all of the activities your children are in. So,
yeah, how can we get that?
Right. So
how can we listen to the kids?
Everyone's like, great, let's listen to the kids. Well, there's a starting point. You've got to ask questions, right? So I have 3 questions, and there's multiple questions per age group that we have resources out there. But the 3 questions I say, and this is not just as mom and dad, but I've placed it as mom and dad right now. What can we do as your mom and dad or together as a family to help make your life easier or better? Is there anything specific you like to do or see differently? Okay, number 1, we've asked the question. Excuse my language, there's no kids, right? Shut up, don't talk. Just let them talk. Let them talk till they're done. That is the number 1 step, including make sure you have no digital around you. Make sure there's no TVs on. Make sure you're in a communicative space where you could be eating a snack. You could be just looking around and talking. Just make sure there's nothing distracting you. Now, you've asked the question, let them talk. When they're done, you then respond to it. And then let them ask you the same question back. Because now you've listened to them, but there has to be an opportunity because we want to tell you also what we would like to see you do differently. So now you've started also your 4 C's.
Yes, the 4 C's, which this is at your booth that everybody
it's
can pick
everywhere.
up, right?
You guys can find it everywhere. It's at our booth, but it's really communication, open, non-judgmental conversation. Judgmental and non-judgmental are really hard words. Kids don't really...
My husband needs to be here for this part.
The problem we have is we say we're open to our kids. We're never going to judge them. We're never going to say anything. But we also have kids who say a lot, right? You're like, oh my God, did you just really say that? I can't believe you just told me that. But that is also non-judgmental space. Let them tell you. And now when they're telling you something, you've got to not look at it as from the perspective of the adult. You have to look at it the perspective of their age group. Now, why are we allowing them to do this? Because we want to empower them. We want to empower their voices. Today, we are fighting as women, as people to speak out and speak up. Our generation right now of 17-year-olds who are going to be voting in this political arena don't feel empowered. In 2020, an article was written by a high school teacher with his students who said, "We are afraid of the next election." These high school students are now the voting age. Guess what they are? They're uncommitted voters because they're like, you guys don't care what we think. And if they think that as adults out there who are creating this world for them, what is their expectation for the people who are guiding them to be adults? Then you do compassion. That's a really big word for them. Empathy, compassion. We want our kids to be kind. We want them to be gentle. We want them to be nice. But compassion doesn't only that. We want them to stick up for themselves. We want them to go out there and say, hey, I'm compassionate. I hear you, but I don't agree with you. I don't have to. But that's because you're taking the opportunity to listen to them. And the biggest thing is you want collaboration. You want to create a common goal. You want to have a common goal with them. Your 6-year-olds and your 17-year-olds are all looking for the same thing. They want to make sure that you guys are all creating something with them. And that's the priority. So that's really your pillars, is to ask these questions and also make sure that you're looking at it with those 4 C's.
Okay, so we're talking about what we as parents can do at home. Then, of course, my 5-year-old started kindergarten this year, and that's been really different. He's in LAUSD and he's coming home and he's telling me things. And how do we empower them to do this at school when we're not there?
So I use something known as CALM. Okay, and this is we as parents have to learn to advocate for our children, number one. Okay, I don't care what school they go to, what school district they're in, you have to go ask questions. You have to go in and first, like I said, listen to the kids, understand the story, okay? Because you're not going to have backing. But even in LAUSD, even in PV, even in OC, all of these school districts have avenues that you guys don't know about how to advocate for your kids that they can pay for, these school districts. I'm just going to let you guys know that.
Good
Secondly,
to know.
we need to teach them how to advocate for themselves, okay? I'm not saying go fight. I'm not saying go beat up a kid or go, use vulgar language. We have to use, and it's on my social media today. So if you guys go there, it's called CALM. And it's literally how to build confidence in your children to speak up. So I'm going to give you an example. I have an 8-year-old daughter who is a lovely young girl, but she tends to get picked on a lot. And I need her to stop complaining about it and feel like the teachers aren't listening, and she needs to go advocate for herself. So one is C, confidence. We've got to build confidence in them. How do we build confidence? You have to listen to them. They need to know they can come to you in non-judgmental spaces and listen. And it's not their fault. Not all the time that they need to feel like they can't speak up. You need to teach them to advocate for themselves. That's A. How do we talk? How do we say something? And there are times, you're going to have to say, no, don't just walk away from it. Hey, I don't like what you're saying, and say it rudely. And then you be the parent that says, hey, the teacher came to me and said, oh, your child said this. Well, did you listen to my child? Has she come and complained or he come and complained to you? Let them fight their battles. We've got to let them also fail. That's L. You got to let them fail. Even your 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds. I know we want to see success for our children, but if they don't see failure, they're never going to see success.
It's so true. Failing is, especially in Los Angeles, depending on what you're pursuing, it's 99% of our days if you work in the entertainment industry.
Right. And then M. M is really mindful learning. And what it is in a different way, it's creating role playing. Role play with your kids at home. They're all actors and actresses in their own way. They all are.
Oh, girl, don't I know?
So I want you to use this as common today on my social media. If you go and you guys pick these up, there's a little QR code there. I literally talk about this today. It was so interesting that you asked that. I didn't even think you were going to.
Well, it's what I'm dealing with. I'm like,
Right.
you know.
And it doesn't happen only at 5. It happens in every school grade, every single one. Again, you have to be everything. And I say this a lot. I don't say this, if you guys want to understand. I don't say we should raise kids. I don't believe it.
I was going to say,
yeah,
before we're going to open it up to some questions, but we're going to touch on this really fast because I was super interesting. You say there's a difference between raising kids and guiding kids.
Yeah. You raise flock. You raise animals. You raise chickens. If you're creating an outcome for something, you're raising them then. So you have determined an outcome for them. If you're guiding them, then you're giving them tools, resources, and wisdom to grow themselves and to give them an opportunity, again, to make mistakes, to create successes, and have a place to find themselves. I mean, culturally, I come from a very South Asian family. I was told to do 3 things: be a doctor, engineer, and lawyer.
Great choices.
Right. I was opportunely loved the fact that I had the ability to become a doctor and go to med school and get my residency and be a child analyst and psychiatrist. And I built hospitals and I built cancer centers, and I was grateful for that. But I realized I had an ability to do more. Now, if I was guided to find what I wanted, which is what my kids and the kids I work with, the schools I work with, then they come to me and they're like, how do I do this? How do I create this? How do I make this? And listening to the kids and guiding the kids isn't for us to keep going to them. Your goal is for them to keep coming to you. That's your goal.
I love that. So want to open it up to questions. If anybody has one, feel free to raise your hand and we can ask that. And for anyone that just joins, we're talking about how to listen to your kids. Don't be confused, not how to talk. It's how to listen. And I know that it's tough. Yeah.
I'm actually a teacher. I'm visiting one of my girlfriends here, and I teach in Chicago. How do we approach other teachers of school to have this open mindset?
So her question is, how do we encourage other teachers to have this open mindset?
So what we did in a couple of the schools in LAUSD, right, yeah. So what we've done is we've created committees. It's actually really cool. We've created a committee of parents, students, and teachers. And it's outside of the PTO. It's outside of like the administration. And what we do is we bring topics up because the students know what's going on in the school. Right? The teachers see what they're seeing, and they're also being like, we have lots of, there's a lot of racial discrimination going on right now in schools, and students don't know how to have it, and the social media issues, the kids not understanding how the utilization of it, the phones, all of that. And it's really listening to them, what they're going through, so then you can create those resources for them, but then they're also now having the opportunity to talk to you outside of a classroom, outside of a place. And you have to advocate for with the parents to do it. You will.
Like, how do we target?
Well, so what we did was we had 2 parents who wanted to be leaders. Okay, you bring those 2 parents in, and then I actually had one teacher, and this was the first school we did it with. It was an elementary school. She wanted to be a leader. She advocated to bring it. And it's really 5 or 6 people. It's not a lot. It grows from there. And then we just launched in 2 of the schools a little, it's called a question box, where the kids put in the questions and they get those answers.
And they feel comfortable because they can write it down.
And they have their peers who are part of that committee. So
we can find you online to
Yes.
set up.
oh yeah, I can totally help you with that. Yeah, it's not a problem. Yeah.
Yes.
How do you continue to listen to your child and validate them when they might be right?
So the question is, how do you continue to listen to and validate your child when they might be wrong?
So that's where communication comes in, right? So now we have to play scenarios with them. I would have to give you an example, and I'm not sure, but let's just say, okay, we have a child who is picking on another child, and it's your child who's picking on that child, right? So I have a whole talk about how do you identify your child as the bully. It's a really big one, and you can see that online as well. I was on New York Good Day New York, and there was a conversation on that. So that conversation is really important. First, we have to see what's going on with your child, the emotional state of your child for that specific situation, right? Are they getting picked on? Is something happening outside or in the home too? You know, are they doing it with their brothers and sisters? Then you play the scenario if this happened to you. Now, I'm the child and you're the other kid, and I'm going to do this with you. How do you feel? Again, there's an age range also, right? I'm talking about a younger child. If you're talking about a 13 and 14-year-old and they're doing wrong, let's play the scenario if you're an adult. Every situation, and you can tell me on the side if you want to, but in those situations, you've got to play that scenario in the opposite with them. That's the first step. Then there's multiples after that. Yeah, that you have to start with that scenario with them.
All right.
Oh, and it's hard. Don't get me wrong. They don't want to listen.
Yes.
I have a 17-year-old daughter, and my instinct when she comes to me with a problem is, okay, here's how we're gonna fix it, and I'm working on that.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just letting her express, and I did that, and then she said, "You're not listening to me." I feel like I'm in a no-win situation. How do I let her vent, but not fix her problem, but show that I heard her?
So you want to?
I was just going to say tips on, I'm assuming that high school gets to be more challenging with the
Yeah.
listening perhaps. So tips on how to listen to your 17-year-old better,
So I have
according to them.
Right. I have questions, and we can send them to you. They're resources specifically for the age range of freshmen to seniors, right? Okay. But in this specific scenario, when she starts the conversation, right? First, let's start with like, hey, I want to make sure you know that I'm a non-judgmental space. Are you looking, as we're going to start this conversation, this is how we do it as adults. Are you looking for advice? Are you looking for me to just listen? Or do you want me to help you with this scenario? Start with that. It's just like talking to adults, guys. We really have to guide them to be adults. If we keep saying that they're kids, they're always going to be kids. And that's what we're seeing with generations right now, is that I don't want to do that. I want to be a social media YouTube star. Not to say there's nothing wrong with that. Great. Let's talk about business. Let's talk about marketing. I mean, that's what we're teaching in the classroom right now. You want to do that? How do we make you successful in this? You got to still go to business school. You still have to learn that. So it's, what are you looking for when you would have a conversation with your adult?
Well, it's the same. I feel so many of us can maybe relate that when you're talking to your husband and sometimes you just want to vent, they're interrupting you. Well, do this, do that. No, I'm just trying to complain right now. Be quiet and listen to me. And sometimes you do want advice.
Right. And you're going to have times, I do this with my 8-year-old. Look, I have to say this again. I'm not a parenting coach. I'm not a parenting expert. I am still learning to guide my own children. But she does that with me. She's like, Mom, I didn't ask you for advice. I'm like, okay.
I just want you to listen to me. All right, we can do one more question if we have any. Otherwise, let's talk. Okay, so you have tons of resources.
I
Give
do.
everyone where they can follow you. get
So
more.
we have all of these on the table, and it's Dr. Z underscore MD on Instagram. And you can email me. There's a lot of ways to DM me and get in touch with me. We have our booth here, so if there's any questions you want to just come ask personally outside of what I'm going to be standing over there. And then also once you get in touch with me, the conversations are like, I can help guide you to what your needs are, especially for schools and parents who are looking for like the older kids too. Because I know there's a lot when it comes to the younger kids out there, and it's okay. It's the older kids that sometimes we're looking for. Also, I work with athletics. So if coaches and mentors need it for their guidance as well as they're growing, I'm here and available.
And I make relatable mom content. I'm also an entertainment reporter, so you can catch me doing some cool things. You can follow me at Stuart Brazel. And speaking of, just digital, I want to leave off with, technology. It's consuming all of our lives. My 5-year-old asked me when he's going to get to do Roblox. So I was like, what is that? I didn't know. And I'm going, oh my goodness. How do you think technology can help support parents? Just any thoughts on technology as we're talking about how to listen to your kids, and then maybe they're screen junkies and all of the stuff that goes with that?
So I'm going to say one big thing. Medically proven, 20 minutes a day of screen time is all that should be allowed in time frames. That's really, visual issues will start occurring if you start them early. So in 20-minute brackets. So you do it for 20 minutes, take a break for 2 hours. Okay. The other thing I have to tell you guys, They mimic us. Y'all scrolling right here. You're all play. And the hardest thing is a lot of us work from home now. And we think, oh, we're working from home. We have availability to our children. No, you're working all the time. They see what you do and they see it and they are like, why? You're on digital. But we understand that academically, we have to be on it. So homework and all of that is included. Outside of that, yeah. So you should be able to do it for school. And then outside of that, 20 minutes. 20 minutes in a 2-hour span. Because more than that, you will start having visual processing issues. So now it's physically affecting you.
I saw a lot of people make faces when you said the 20 minutes.
It is hard. It's very hard. It's very hard. But you know what? I can give more advice on that because we have a whole, one really quick thing. If it doesn't work in your house, digital contracts, family contracts. It's on my social media. Create a family digital contract. I have 4 nephews who are in college and who at home now with their parents have created digital contracts.
Amazing.
And they're between the ages of 16, no, they're not college, 16 to 17 years old age. And it works. They're not on their digital. And that includes video gaming.
Amazing. Well, this has been so wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Z. Thank you, everybody. Continue to enjoy everything at SoCal Moms today. Bye.